Good morning, everyone. How are all of you today? All right, good. Hi, my name is Stephen Johnson, and today I will be talking about adversity. Now, what is adversity? Adversity is a state of hardship or affliction, and it's often a misfortune of some kind. Everyone in this room has gone through some form of adversity at some point in their life before, I'm sure. Now, there's several different kinds of adversities. Injury-related, self-impacted, some due to circumstance and decisions or actions by others. Now, first, there are many different kinds of injuries people can receive, and that can be a muscle tear, broken bones, that can be an amputation, and even cancers. Now, how is it going to be hard to succeed with these things? Well, clearly, with an injury of some kind, you aren't going to be able to perform or compete with everybody else, meaning that everybody else is improving their ability while you're at a disadvantage, meaning you have to work twice as hard to get back to your original place and to exceed those recent limits. And that can be really hard. Now, on the left right here is a man named Ronnie Lott. He played for the San Francisco 49ers. And making a tackle in a game right before a wild card game in the playoffs, he ended up breaking his finger pretty bad. Now, he decided he was going to actually amputate his pinky in order to be able to play because the doctor said it wasn't going to heal in time, and that was the only way he was going to be able to play. Now, on the right over here is a man named Oscar Pistorius. Oscar Pistorius was a man born without legs from South Africa, and he decided that he was going to run in the finals at the Olympics without legs in an able-bodied race. Now, a man without legs raced in an able-bodied man's race. Now, if a man without legs can do that, imagine what everybody in this room can do. All it takes is some hard work, some effort, and belief in yourself, and you can achieve greatness. Next is self-impacted adversity. Now, self-impacted adversity is something that is going to be brought upon yourself by your own choice or your own decisions at some point in time. One man who had to go through this is a man named Eric Liddell. He is a Scotsman. He competed for Britain in the 1924 Paris Olympics. Now, his entire life he had prepared for the 100 and 200 meter dash because that was what he was best at. Now, he was a devout Christian, so he was not ever going to compete on a Sunday. Well, actually, a few months before the Olympics, they had announced that both of his events were going to be on a Sunday. So he decided that regardless of what the prime minister or the monarchy had told him, and back then the monarchy were actually the head of the church, and they had even told him that it was okay to disregard his religion for this day in order to give a good look for Britain in the Olympics. Now, he decided that no matter what anybody was going to tell him, he was going to go and compete for what he believed in. So he decided he was going to learn a completely different race. He was going to compete in the 400 meters. Now, if anybody knows anything about track, the 400 meters is a completely different race. It requires different skill sets and different techniques from the 100 and 200. Now, not only did he race in this race, he actually became a gold medalist in the Olympics. And basically what this means is, even though life's going to throw you a curveball and sometimes you can't compete in what you want to compete in, there's always a way around it. You can get around the adversity and still come out on top. Eric Liddell did it, everybody else can do it. He was a regular guy just like everybody else. Next is circumstance-related adversities. Now, this could be apartheid, this could be discouragement, like from other people, something that wasn't originally, nobody else inflicted on you, neither did yourself. It was the cards that you were dealt. Now, one advocate for this is Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was around in South Africa during an apartheid. Now, he believed that he was going to be peaceful in his protests to end the apartheid because he believed this racial system of segregation was not going to work and it was not going to benefit anybody and people should be treated equally. But none of this worked, and he decided that he was going to have to be a little more, or be more involved. He was going to have to take matters into his own hands, and they were going to have to use action and force instead of words. Now, he was sentenced to life in prison because people believed that he was a modern-day terrorist, and he was to some extent, but it was for the right reasons. Now, even though he was sentenced to prison, he still worked in fixing the apartheid and stopping segregation. And 27 years later, when he was let out of prison, he actually became the first black president of South Africa and has helped end the apartheid. Now, unfortunately, Nelson Mandela has died a month ago on December 3rd, but I mean, he has come a long way and he has really brought South Africa to a whole nother place and has ended the apartheid. So even though somebody threw him in prison for 27 years, he still managed to achieve his goal. So if you can't do something because somebody has hindered your success or made it really hard for you, taking you out of a class in school or removed you from a team, you can still make it if you believe in yourself and you still go after what you believe in regardless of what other people are going to put you aside to do. And also there are decision-related or actions of others adversity. Steve Jobs was a huge advocate of this. Many of you know Steve Jobs is the face of Apple. He was the head visionary. He was a co-founder of Apple. But many of you may or may not know that Steve Jobs was actually fired from Apple because people believed that he was a detriment to the company and he was giving a bad look for Apple. Now, he didn't sit around and just say, oh, I was fired, I'm just going to mope around for the rest of my life and do nothing. He actually created a whole new company called Next, and that was very successful, as well as creating Pixar, which is a huge cartoon industry. Now, not only did he do that, Apple realized that without Steve Jobs, they weren't going to get anywhere because he was the head visionary. He had the ideas that nobody else had. So Apple rehired him and bought his company. And when he came back, he revolutionized the technology industry we know as today. Now, that is very apparent in the fact that everyone in this room very likely owns an Apple product of some kind, whether it's an iPod, an iPad, a Macintosh computer. Everyone happens to own some form of an Apple product, and he has definitely revolutionized the smartphone industry as well as the computer industry. Now, I bet you're all wondering why I chose to talk about adversity. Well, I myself have gone through some form of adversity in my life, and early on in my life, at around the age of 9 or 10, I played soccer and actually broke my foot and ankle straight down the middle and decided that I was going to play the entire soccer season with a broken ankle. Now, I don't advise you to play with a broken ankle or foot because that's not healthy, but despite that, I still decided to do that. Now, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to play the same with that foot, and I knew that it was going to hurt every time that I touched the ball with my right foot. So in order to compete with everybody else, I decided I was going to go out and learn how to use my left foot so I can compete and be at the same level as everybody else. And as well, to add on to that, my freshman year, I did not make the varsity soccer team. I actually was told I could not make the varsity soccer team and that I was never going to be good enough to play at a varsity level. Well, I actually started the next year as a sophomore, started the next year as a junior on the varsity team, and am now captain of the soccer team this year and hopefully going to help lead the team to an SBC win. And next, I've also had some issues with kicking in football. And my junior year, everybody knows me as the kicker. And there's a reason why they call them the Iceman. It's because they apparently can't. They can take heavy criticism and they're good in front of people or whatever have it. Now, my junior year, I was really nervous. I was really stressed out by having to kick in front of all these people. And I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it or succeed. Now, I actually missed my first 3 point-after-touchdown opportunities and never kicked again that entire season. Now, I wasn't going to sit back and let this affect my dreams of being a college kicker one day. Now, I went out of the way. If I saw the other kicker kicking only at practice, I was going to kick an hour after practice every day. I was going to be the last person to leave, and I was going to go to all the morning workouts so I could make sure that I was stronger and able to kick further than anybody else that I could compete against. Now, add to that, I also had to go out of my way to find extra coaching so I could get the advice and the firsthand experience from other people and other professionals out there. And I'm actually working on and I had a very successful season as a senior and apparently had the most touchbacks out of the last 6 years with nearly 1/3 of my kickoffs were touchbacks, which is pretty good. And right now I'm in the middle of trying to become a collegiate kicker. And I know that a lot of this has been about sports related, but I can tell you firsthand as well that academics play a big role in this as well. My first few years of high school, I goofed off and messed around a lot and didn't exactly take things seriously, as most of you kind of know. But yeah, even though that was the thing, I was letting adversity take over me. I was going to sit there and say, hey, my grades are already bad, they can't get any worse. No, I wasn't going to sit around and later realize that I do need to fix this, and grades are the route to my success. Yeah, I can be a great athlete. Yeah, you can get a scholarship, but you're not going to get anywhere if you don't have the grades to get into a school. Now, I realized my adversity really late, and my advice to you is you have to realize your adversity early on and then challenge it. Go around it, deal with it somehow, and you have to get past it. Now, I'm going to leave everybody here with some wise words from somebody who used to know a lot from adversity. It was the beginning of World War II, and all of Eastern and Western Europe was giving in to the tyranny of Germany, as we all know. And Britain was 6 weeks away from being out of supplies, and Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of England, told Britain never to give up because no matter what, we can't give in or else the Nazis are going to take over the rest of the world. So that being said, he actually encouraged America to help join in the war and help Britain out, and Britain didn't ever collapse and ended up winning the war. And when he, after the war, he was asked to come to visit his alma mater and give a speech. And in that speech, he told the graduating class and the student body, and he said some of the most famous words of all time, and that was never, ever, ever give up. Thank you.